All right. And the other one, actually, this is like a brilliant marketing ploy that I don't see why some shows aren't just using this. Um, I watched like the first few episodes. I didn't like when it first came out of Lucifer.
Oh, I love Lucifer.
And then I think it was because the kids or something. Like I just didn't wind up continuing on with it. But I have seen little TikTok clips and reels that people have pulled out that that I've watched. That I'm like, oh, bro, I need to go watch this show. Like this show
Dude,
looks like it went on
it's
to be
fun.
dope.
It's fun for no other reason than the dude is so charismatic. The guy that
That's
plays, he's
yes.
so great.
Welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. I am your host this week, Pete. I am joined, as always, by Kevin.
Hey,
And this week we have an Andy, not an Andrew. Okay.
for the audience at home, that was a couple of hang loose signs because he's 75 years old.
We are a pop culture centered podcast, mostly talking about streaming movies and television, and especially this secret little show that I can't believe had been missing from my life for so long that everyone talked about. We're on our uh, we're on our watch slash rewatch for Kevin of Lost, which we'll get to it later, obviously. But man, we're coming up on those that three episode season finale.
Yeah, as
And
far as we're concerned, we're on our penultimate lost episode of season one.
yeah, basically, and it's so we got 4 episodes we're gonna go over tonight, um, which will be interesting because a lot happens in these 4 fucking episodes. You get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of backstory for a few people here that you're just like,
Yeah,
whoa, well, hey,
yeah,
howdy,
it's
hey,
it steamrolls at the end. It really picks up speed.
yeah. But we will get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
First, we're just gonna check in and see what everybody's kind of been watching. It's it's been an interesting like week or so. Been trying to there's so much out there right now that I want to watch that's new, but just the way my schedule's been working, I've been having a hard time finding like time to sit down because when it's something new, I want to sit there and actually watch it. Like I don't just want to put it on in the background and do dishes. Like I got a few shows for that. So there's a couple of things on my list to watch, that I haven't watched yet. Like I want to say, Life is Beth, the new Amy Schumer thing on Hulu. Looks really, really funny. Of course, I got to go and finally watch Breaking Bad.
You
Um,
should save that. I was thinking about that. We should do the same thing with Breaking Bad that we did with Lost.
I'm down for that.
Um,
Me
because
too.
number one, it'll force you to watch it
Yeah,
since you
I'm
haven't
down.
seen it,
I'm
and
down for
I've
that.
never
I
seen it.
haven't watched it in a long time.
Okay,
I've never
yeah.
seen it at all.
Well, there you
You've
go,
never seen
folks.
Breaking Bad either? Then we're perfect.
There we go. That's an exclusive. Once we're done with Lost, we're moving on to Breaking Bad. I was going to force
So
you
in
guys to watch The
7
West
years,
Wing, but
yeah.
7 years, right?
Oh yeah, we got to do West Wing too. I haven't watched West Wing.
Um, but what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, so we're just checking in, seeing what we're watching. So let's go around the horn from my screen. Let's talk to Kevin. Kevin, what have you watched this last
Not a
week?
lot, man. Like I was saying before we started recording, I finished Pieces of Her, which is the Tony Collette show. It is
Which one was this about? Yeah, what was this about again? I remember you talked about it
yeah. So it opens up.
because I remember we talked about fucking how awesome Tony Collette is for like a half an hour.
Yeah, because she is. She's easily the best part of the show, and Bella Heathcote's fine too. She's the daughter, but Tony Collette's Tony Collette. But
Yeah.
anyways, it opens up where it's um, Bella Heathcote's birthday, and so they're at this little diner, and somebody comes in and shoots up the joint, and in that process, Tony Collette saves her life, and ultimately kills the guy that shot up the place. And so when it starts to go, starts to gather some steam, it turns out that Tony Collette does not want to be found. And so though I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. It's definitely a mystery. But if you watch the trailer, it seems much more tense and interesting than it actually is. It's really kind of a slow burn.
Okay.
And I didn't really love the ending. Like it progressively got less good. I don't want to say bad, but
Just
it
less
got
good.
less good. Yeah.
It's kind of like
Um,
Weeds.
yeah. But in a single season,
That's a bummer. Like, was it
you
right
know,
around like episode 6 or 7?
no, it's just, is it like it really, maybe the second episode was good as the first one, but after that, it's just each one is just a little less good.
That's a bummer.
Um, yeah, and there was some stuff that happened at the end, and I was like, "Nah, I don't think that's the way it would have gone, and it just felt a little too cliched, which is a bummer because, like I said, Tony Collette was amazing the whole way through. I told you, Terry O'Quinn shows up in it. He plays he doesn't have a ton of screen time, but his character is really important, and when he is on screen, he just chews it up. He's fantastic. Um, but it's okay. Like I wouldn't say not to watch it, but don't expect it to finish as strong as it starts for sure. Um, and then
You know what?
I
I'm sorry. I have to throw this out there because it's something I just thought of. So I have a new goal for our little show here.
mhm,
And it's gonna involve a little bit of work.
I'm
Not
out.
not no, well, it's not really a little bit of work. It's actually really easy. But like a little bit from you, I'll do some stuff, and Andy and Andrew can get involved, as deep as they want. I only say you, Kevin, because you're a little bit more into Twitter than I am, and
Mm,
you have the show's Twitter account.
mhm.
Um, we should start adding the lost cast members and see if we could randomly get one of them to come on the show.
I
Totally
know
agree.
at least some people involved in the show are at least open to it. There's a, not to pump somebody else's podcast, doesn't know that I'm doing it, but if when you guys are done, if you want a more investigative kind of podcast into Lost, they do go episode by episode, and it's just called The Hatch.
Oh, okay. So when we had started talking about splitting Lost off as its
Mhm.
own podcast, which we have to talk about because we still may do anyway. That's neither here nor there. I started looking for to brainstorm ideas for names, and I saw that, and I looked, and that one I noticed. I was just scanning through episodes, like things.
They
I'm
have
like, oh,
tons of people. They have tons
yeah,
of people. They got May Pother. They got Tom Cruise's cousin, right? They got Ethan on there. Um, they got a couple people from later in the show on there.
We should
Um,
be able to get Hurley.
we got a couple of because he's your Eskimo brother.
Hurley? I think there's another connection, perhaps.
Yeah, Eskimo brothers, dude. Have you not
Yeah.
watched The League?
No.
oh, we'll pause on that and continue, Kevin.
Oh,
We'll talk. We'll
you
talk
don't
about.
even understand Eskimo brothers. I'm so disappointed in you. Um, uh, but yeah, no, they have tons of guests and a couple of producers. I think they get Jack Bender on, who is one of the main guys that produced the show.
Yeah.
Cool. There we go. Um, but yeah, they have a ton of people on, and they do a pretty good analysis of the show. Their show is relatively short because they're doing one episode at a time.
Yeah.
It's like 15-20 minutes of show talk and then an interview in a lot of cases. So it's cool. Like I said, I wouldn't watch it now if I were you guys, or listen to it now because you're not done with the
Spoilers.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not shy about the spoilers because their assumption is that if you're
Everybody's watched
listening,
it.
not
Yeah.
necessarily that everybody's watched it, but if you're listening to that show, the expectation is there will be spoilers.
There is actually a show going on right now that I thought about reaching out to because we're just on and seeing maybe if like any of them wanted to guest on it. Although again, I didn't want to listen to any of it, but there is another show going on right now and they're a little deeper in. I think they're on to season 2 already and deep into season 2, but
Mhm.
they have a guy who loves the show, has, watched it from the beginning when it was first on, and one guy who has never seen it.
Mhm.
Just like the three of us. So it might be interesting to just throw somebody else in. Anyway, we're show planning here and we don't need to. I
True.
forgot what the point of all this was.
Dude, I forgot the whole point of our show is. But
Oh yeah, no, I interfered because I said yeah. That's so. If anybody who's listening to this wants to tweet out if you had a favorite cast member of Lost, tweet out that we want them to be a guest on our show and to contact us. I don't give a shit who it is. I mean,
yeah. Even if it's just for the law segment and get some ideas. I think we do have the advantage of being at least a little different than some of the more deep and insightful ones, because you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
exactly. I just think it'd be fun, because that is my goal for our little show here, is to get some sort of even B list celebrity actor who's been in a movie that we all enjoy on. Like I'm gonna start, just between Facebook and Twitter and everything else, the one person in Hollywood who I think, if anyone would actually be game for it, would be Kevin Smith. Just because of
Why?
the podcast universe he has created. I'm just saying, as someone who would be game to just like, hey, here's fucking 3 or 4 random ass dudes that do a pop culture podcast. Why not? I'll come and talk to them on a Saturday night because I don't have anything to do. Kind of
God,
thing.
if we got Kevin Smith on a podcast, I think I wet my shorts.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's a goal. It's a short little goal. It's, and again, I'm saying, see this. Like, I'll take Wallace Shawn. I don't give a shit.
I'm in for all of it.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to me.
Yes.
We were talking about me.
Sorry, Kevin.
I don't know if yeah.
Can we get back to you?
Yeah, please. I don't know if I've talked about it before, but me and my kids have been watching Psych on a rewatch. So we are now into season 7 of that show. And I just, I don't need to give anything away. I don't need to break it down, but I fucking love that show. It's just fun. It is ridiculous. It's stupid. At no point does it take itself seriously. And it's just a ton of fun.
That's another one on my list to watch, because I love Dule Hill. Absolutely love Dule Hill.
He is so different than like anything else. He's so funny. Like, he's so over the top, silly. Like, I know that you know him from The West Wing.
And I know him from.
He's Ballers. He's in Ballers.
Yep, he's in. He plays the dad, actually, in the reboot.
Oh, in the new Wonder Years.
The Wonder Years. He's good.
Yeah,
he's good.
He's a great actor.
Wait. Is there a reboot of the Wonder Years?
What fucking rock have you been living under? Yeah.
A big rock, apparently.
It's
not bad. I just haven't committed to it. It's a black family, and it's really cool. It's like a slightly different time period. It's fun. All the characters there.
Is it a reboot with the same character names and everything?
No. It's a totally different family. It's a little sillier too, isn't it?
Yeah. The feel is a little different. Like, they almost lean into. It still has that heartfelt sentimentality that the first Wonder Years always had. There's a lot more humor in this one. Like, I would almost liken it to, from what I've watched, if you make it a little less silly and out there and ground it a little bit more in reality, it's almost like a young Sheldon in a way. But the characters aren't so. It's on like CBS or ABC. I think it's ABC.
It's ABC.
One of them. Yeah.
ABC. And just to transition back to me, we started watching Young Sheldon.
Oh,
funny enough, which is interesting to me. I think we're only 3 or 4 episodes in, and I know Alex raved about it when he talked about it. But I don't love it. I actually like Big Bang more, at least right now. The one thing I do appreciate is that they do not have a laugh track on there. And I certainly, it is a more heartfelt show. It is a more family show.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Like, it's about the family. It's not anywhere near as over the top as Big Bang, anything like that. So I don't know exactly what it is. Everybody's good on it. The mom is actually the daughter of the mom from Big Bang. It's actually Sheldon's mom's like real life daughter, and she sounds exactly like her. And sometimes she looks like, it's crazy. Like, it's really cool. And I love Annie Potts. Like, Annie Potts plays Meemaw.
Nice.
But I for some reason, at least so far, I don't enjoy it as much as Big Bang. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm an immature dude, and I really like. There's a lot of a lot of humor in Big Bang that I really enjoy, even though it's less appropriate for my kids. It still makes me laugh.
You know, it's funny you say that because there have been a couple of shows that we've started watching that I found, even with everything we let the youngest watch that she probably shouldn't. Um, oh, there. Okay, that's well. No, you know, and I'll talk about that in a minute because that's a good segue. I'll go next from whenever you're ready.
Cool. So we'll get back to me again.
Back to Kevin.
Back to Kevin.
Yeah. God damn, dude. 93 episodes of this show, and I still can't get my own damn time. And then the last thing I watched, I started The Tourist. So I'm halfway through The Tourist.
What do you think?
Dude, I'm on the fence. I'm really on the fence. I need it to kind of break back to good because there was, not to give too much away, but a giant fat dude fell down a well and probably like 15 feet. And this guy is fat.
That.
Like, I'm not being mean. This guy has like a belly that is like me curled up in a ball sitting on his stomach, right?
Like Gilbert Grape Bomb fat? Or like
I don't know. He's just a big fat guy. He's been in some stuff. I don't know his name. And I know
Margera's dad fat?
Dude, I know it's rude to just call somebody fat. So yeah, I'm being a dick. But I mean, he's a big dude. He's got a big belly. And he falls
Isn't he
down
the same guy? He's the same guy that's in
Mindhunters.
He's in Mindhunters, but remember the guy from Witch Hunter? The that doesn't matter. He's a big dude. Yes, he's a very large. He's 300 plus.
Yeah, easy. And he falls into this well that's like 15 feet deep.
What's the character name?
I don't know.
Is it Billy?
No, I don't think so. The show's really bad about names, and they change a few times, so it's kind of hard to know for sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm looking in the cast, and so I'm trying to find. Is like the big fat dude only in one?
No, he's in at least three. I don't know beyond that.
Give me 10 seconds, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but anyways,
he's Olaf Dari.
Oh, okay. So that it is Billy. I was like, this looks like a chunky dude.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Anyways, he falls down a 15-foot dry well, and then they even show him lying there. Which, if you're that big and you fall 15 feet, you've broken
everything,
many bones,
all the bones. Yeah.
And then, like at the end of the episode, he crawls out of the well, and I'm like, there's number one, there's no way that guy could climb out of that well. And number two, there's no way he's not broken. So like I need it to bend back to either just go ridiculous, like 100% ridiculous, which I don't think it will, or fight to bring it back to reality, because it's not, at some point you're kind of, you're kind of just letting the show in, right? Because it's, number one, amnesia doesn't work like this. You don't just lose your memory and just completely wipe it out, right? It's just not a thing. Like for as often as it gets used in TV and movies, like getting amnesia the way this guy got it just doesn't happen. And it's also interesting that, in the whole of Australia, this guy only runs into 5 people and 3 of them know each other. Like it's weird.
Just a real. Sorry, not to change subject and derail us here, because we can keep this one nice and in the house. But did you guys know that there was a Zoolander 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. I never saw it, but I know it exists. So anyways, Andy, what do you think of The Tourist? Because you finished it.
I did. I do agree with you that him falling down the well and then surviving the fall was, in my interpretation of, like, people in Lost going without water on a binge into the forest, which was like, it doesn't make sense to me.
In the tropics.
Yeah. But that is if you can get past that, Kevin, it does.
And I think I can.
Well.
Like I said, it needs to find itself again quick, because my understanding from it is that they need this guy in the show, and they probably just shouldn't have done what they did in the writing. Like it's bad writing for me. Like I assume that when they wrote it, they didn't picture, a 6'5", 320-pound dude in the part, right? Like so when you say he's got to fall down a well in the script, and nobody decided to change it to make it fit the actor, that's an assumption I'm making, right?
What's that, girl? There's a fat guy in a well?
Yeah. So it's just like, number one, him falling that far and not being crippled was a little preposterous for me. And then for him to be able to climb out in cowboy boots, no less,
Okay,
that
so
are like four sizes
I'm
too
taking us
big.
off the
Like,
rails real quick on this one. That has always been one of those things in any movie, any action movie ever made, that has always bugged the shit out of me. I know, like, you have to suspend your disbelief to some degree for any of these things to be plausible. But if you go back and watch any action movie at all, by the end of the movie, 80% of the people who survived would be crippled. Or crippled's not the right word.
mm-hmm.
Like, just bodily
Yeah.
destroyed. Like, I'm sorry. I know we all love Die Hard.
Mhm.
He would have been dead.
Yes,
For sure.
all of them.
Would have, like,
Oh,
the
for sure.
human body cannot forget, like, well, pushing the endurance and this, and I'm like, no. Like, the whole, it was great. Well, that's another time that's a whole nother show right there. Just had to put that 2 cents in. Kevin, let's bring it back to you.
No, you know what, man? I'm really sick of you only want to talk about yourself and interrupting me all the time. So why don't you talk about you? But also, I'm done.
So you were kind of talking there before we were talking. I said it'd be a good segue of just like being able to watch stuff with your kids,
Mhm.
and so driving my wife crazy. I'm like burning incense like I'm fucking 15 again.
From Apple Bong? What are you doing over there?
No, I haven't burned incense in years, and I happen to be in Whole Foods tonight, and I'm like, ooh, incense. I haven't burned incense in forever, and I got home and realized I don't have an incense burner anymore. So it's like that old school,
Stoner trick, man.
Exactly. You just
Yeah.
stick it in an apple,
Yeah.
and it just burns down. So I struggle because there's so many shows I want to share with my girls and watch, but I forget some of the content that's in it.
For sure.
And there's nothing really that I watch that's like super bad. Like, I'm not gonna,
Game
it's
of
not like I'm like,
Thrones.
hey, yeah, I'm not rolling around like, hey, let's watch Oz together, ladies. There's nothing like that, but just some off color stuff. So the 14-year-old handles it fine. The 9-year-old is famous for they're gonna go have sex now. So I'm just like, okay, don't need to bring that up, which is why I love that she is so into Lost with me, because she is loving the mystery of it and everything else behind it. But that's for later in the show. We, as a family, we've recently started a rewatch of Modern Family. We're about 3/4 of the way through the first season. That show, I watched that show religiously when it was on the air. It still holds up. It's still like there is some fall off in the later seasons, so I know that that's coming. But the last season was great. Like, they really sent it off in a good way. Like, they knew it was going to be their last season, and you could tell they were writing it that way. And it works. Like, it's, as with so many things on that show, the season finale or the series finale was very much okay, we're going to put this all together in a light bow. This confluence of events is all going to work out so that the Dunphys and, everybody, it's all working out the way it is. But I forgot how fucking funny that show was in its first couple of seasons. And my daughter is so every now and then just starts laughing, and she's like, oh my god, you are so part Phil Dunphy. And I'm like, yeah, I got a little Phil Dunphy in me. It's definitely there. Like, it has that show also, you go back, that show got away with a lot of jokes that are kind of like that you're like, if it was a different show and it was written and performed a different way, like, I'm sorry, it's in the very first episode and it still cracked me up just like it did the first time I fucking heard it. Cameron and Mitchell are introducing the baby to the family, and they've adopted this, Asian baby, and Mitchell, says, oh, and her name is Lily. And without missing a beat, Phil Dunphy, Ty Burrell, just goes, won't that be hard for her to say? And it takes you a second to get it. You're like, I don't, oh, and then you're like, Jesus, that's like racist but funny, and it works. The reason, and the thing, okay, this is what it is, and it's because they
Not racist is accurate.
well, no, but it works because you can take a character like Phil Dunphy, who is a little bit of a buffoon in the classic, almost, in a classic commedia dell'arte sense. He's almost like the Puncharello character, like from that kind of tradition, where he's got he's funny and heartwarming, but he's a bit of an idiot,
Mm-hmm.
And it works because there's no malice in it, and it makes him look stupid more than it does like as a bad racist joke, because it's like you stop and you sit there and you go, oh, he's thinking she's gonna go up with an accent and say Ruri, and you're just like, that is like so bad yet so funny at the same time. So we are enjoying that as a family, and I will report back more on that as we get closer to the end, because that's always nice. You just watch 3-4 episodes of that in a night as the kids are finishing homework and stuff like that, and it's a fun.
That's what we did with Big Bang.
Exactly. That's one, like we were talking about pre-show, that like I can put on, and like we can watch it, and I can be in the kitchen doing dishes and still watch that, into our living room, like with the family, and I'm like, I don't have to be as attentive as a new show. But I did start something new to me this last week, which the youngest is kind of on board with, and so we may wind up picking it up. So I watched on TBS, TNT, CW, whichever one it was, that show Angel with David Boreanaz, where he's the vampire. It was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer spinoff.
Before you go on, in Buffy there was the dude that was kind of like the average Joe kind of guy that had a crush on Buffy.
Yeah, Xander.
Did you see what he happened to say, like literally like this week?
No.
Talking about Angel, he said, how does the most boring character on television get their own spinoff? I don't know what it was in. I literally saw that article today.
So it's funny he says that, because Angel is another one of those shows where I like the whole vampire undercover thing. Like, I think it was just a fun idea. I like the lore and the way they do things, because the whole thing with Angel's deal is that there's like this big overarching evil like group. The Wolfram and Hart is the kind of human front for them, but it's the Circle of the Black Thorn, and it's all these demons and things from these other planes of existence that are like ruining humanity. And anyway, not to go into that too deep, but he is right to a sense, because the actual David Boreanaz and the actual character Angel is really kind of, he's incredibly one note the entire time, and he's very boring, but the cast of characters and the bad guys and the storylines that they surround him with actually make the show kind of fun to watch. It is just a fun watch. I mean, it's bad. I'm not in any way, shape, or form claiming like it's good TV, but it is, like it's a famous, Andy, it's a fun watch. It is fun to watch. It's one you can put on in the background. It's kind of like, again, I don't expect any of you to have watched this, but for some reason, years and years ago, I don't know why, but I got into Charmed. Couldn't tell you. There's just some like I dug the whole like fantasy illusory background. Like I dug the witch thing. Like it was just I dug the concept, so I watched it, and it was bad. Like I'm in no way, shape, or form telling. I mean, plus it had Alyssa Milano and fucking Holly Combs and fucking then it had at first it had Brenda. And then
as a dude of that age, I definitely was more interested. I never watched it, but if I was going to watch it, it honestly would have been because I thought all the girls were cute.
Yeah,
like at that age, like I was.
Yeah. So when I have actually started watching,
If you say
And
Vampire Diaries or Riverdale, I'm done.
no, I actually
Okay.
I have actually no, I've actually watched the first season of Riverdale. I never went back. I actually have a decent reason for watching it, and I watched it when it first came out. I only watched Riverdale because I was a huge Archie Comics fan as a kid. And so it was very interesting to me, like when they said what they were doing, they were like, okay, it's going to be the Archies,
Dark
but
Archie,
it's
yeah.
not it's going to be the Dark Archies. So I watched it. It's shit. Like my daughter's never watched it. She has some friends who watched it religiously. If I were ever to go back and watch that show, that would be one that I'd put on, and I would just have my phone ready to Shazam like music from it. It's like I did it's one of those inexplicable shows. Like years ago, we watched, the wife and I, for some fucking reason, One Tree Hill. Like we came into it like 3 or 4 seasons deep and wound up going back and catching up. But it was kind of one of those, God, this is so bad. Why are we fucking watching it? But there's something about it that you just get hooked into these fucking stupid storylines. That show, though, I will give One Tree Hill this. All those shows,
Sophia Bush. Oh,
well, hot as a baker. Well, no, that's why I started watching Chicago PD, because she was on that show. Oh my god, now she's on a new one where she's like a fucking doctor.
yeah, I think that already got canceled.
I think you're right. But One Tree Hill, hooked on that. Where the fuck was I going? God damn it! You said Sophia Bush, and now all I can do is think about her. I had a very cogent point where I was going with all this.
I doubt it.
Yeah, okay. If I think about it, I'll come back to it.
So
But
what are you guys actually watching?
I have started watching, and I don't, and it's odd because I enjoyed Angel, but we've started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
Because people raved about it, and I like Joss Whedon,
That's
and
true.
I've heard
That's true.
I heard so many good things about it that I was like, okay, you know what? I might as well give it a shot. It's okay. Like I have a feeling it's going to be one of those I got to get through the first season kind of things, and then it might get
Yeah,
good.
I assume it doesn't hold up real well. It was a little corny to begin with.
Oh yeah.
I watched bits and pieces of it, but I never really got into it. Although my daughter is named after Sarah Michelle Gellar's character on All My Children.
Okay.
Partly because I had a crush on Sarah Michelle Gellar at the time. So it's amazing that I didn't watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I was also personally offended by that show because I loved the movie. And I was like, I don't want to watch a show that is totally different.
But you know what though? They do a good job to some degree actually with one thing in that. And I never realized this. They don't erase the movie. They pick it up that everything happened there outside of LA, and the mom and her then moved to Sunnydale because of what happened. So like she has to go, and in the first episode she's talking to like when all the principal's talking to her and stuff, and she has a reputation because she burned down the gym at her old school, and there's rumors floating around about all the fights she got into and things like that. And so it like they don't erase it. They acknowledge that it was there, and they say it tries. And this is why I think I have to get through the first season, because I've heard from people that it does get very good, but that it takes on that like comedic cheesiness to a way, which is actually what I was wanting to see. And in the first season, it's not that. It's trying to take itself seriously.
I wonder if it runs along the same lines of something like Supernatural, where Supernatural, when it found its footing, it had a great mix between drama and comedy, and even like every third or fourth episode of Supernatural was like silly.
I think that's what this winds up doing.
Yeah, that to me, for a show like that, is the perfect is like the perfect formula. Because when, like, especially in the last season of Supernatural, second season, they did a Scooby-Doo episode. Like they literally went into Scooby-Doo, and it was fucking great. So like
that's another show on my
how
list.
to do that, you can. Scooby-Doo or Supernatural?
Supernatural.
You better get in for a long haul on that one.
How many seasons is that show?
15.
Fuck me. And they're all
Jesus
40. They're all
Christ.
42-minute episodes, aren't they?
42 minutes, 24 episodes a season. So buckle
Jesus.
up, buddy. You know what though? For me, like it had its ups and downs, but that show never really got bad. Those two were so good together, and the
Jensen
cast of
Ackles
characters that they put
and
around them, and Jared Padalecki,
there we go.
and the cast of characters that they brought in around them around the third season, I think, is when they really started bringing in other people, and it just got better and better. And like they could have kept going, like they really could have, if they had wanted to. I know, like they were coming up with crazier and crazier shit to keep like a broader storyline every season, but they did it.
That's like I've heard nothing bad about that show, which like I hate to say it, another one that's on my list is like Gilmore Girls.
Dude, 100%. Like
I keep
for what it is,
everybody I talk to is like, and I look at it and I'm like, it's fucking. I'm like, I love her. I love Heather Graham. You know, the
you mean
Alexis Bledel,
Lauren Graham.
Lauren Graham.
Heather,
I love Heather Graham too. Roller Girl.
mhm.
Chug.
But it's the same girl that wrote Miss Maisel,
That's
and
what exactly.
the dialogue and the pattern in that show is unreal. Like between Alexis Bledel and Lauren Graham, I can watch those two with Amy Sherman Palladino's dialogue for like weeks straight. Like it's
That
so impressive.
that's the thing. I've wanted to watch that because of the Miss Maisel connection. Because that
Mhm.
was, you know, now that we've got on that I'm watching Buffy, which is again, I'll kind of wrap that up in as much as it hasn't quite hooked me yet. I'm thinking it will. The youngest is liking it, so we're gonna kind of continue watching it for now. It's nice because there are some scary aspects to it, if you will, but there's nothing like horror about it. And there's nothing, and because it was on like the CW, I think, or the WB, one of the two, who knows what it was at that time.
I think it was the WB at the time.
There's nothing that is like I don't want to say offensive because it's not the right word for it. It's like there's nothing, and also because of the time frame it was filmed, because I think that shit started in '97, and you know it's still that is the other thing that's kind of funny. It's the old school TV 3-4 or 4-3.
I told you I went through that with Stargate when I started watching
Yeah.
Stargate. Like I think 8 seasons of it were in the old school 3-4 ratio, and you're
It's
just
just
like,
weird.
dude, this is weird. Yeah, it's amazing this stuff hasn't been remastered or somebody hasn't figured out.
Exactly. But it's it seems fun. I'm gonna give it. I think I'm gonna be, because again, it's another one that I don't feel like I can put it on, and even though I've never watched it, I don't feel like I have to sit there and watch that show. You know, like I'll be able to wash dishes and fold laundry and not give it my full attention. But yeah, it seems like it's okay for the 9, actually almost 10-year-old to watch now, because there's nothing too scary about it. There's nothing too overt about it. Like it's fun. I know, I know a little bit about what goes on. I know Seth Green is coming up here as as Oz the werewolf. I know we've got Willow. There's another witch that gets involved, and they wind up, she winds up becoming a lesbian with her when Oz goes off with his werewolf pack. I know Elijah Dushku comes in as another Slayer, and I love her.
Oh yeah,
absolutely love her. She's another one who's just I'm always like, why haven't you done more? She's always a bridesmaid, never a bride. She doesn't really have a lot of starring roles that have really lasted long enough for you to really like. I think she was in one show.
Didn't she do like Dollhouse or something like that?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, which wasn't. You know what?
It was supposed to be. It actually looked pretty good.
Wasn't bad. I watched 2 episodes.
Never watched it.
Wasn't bad. Again, I think it was one of those shows that got canceled before it really got a chance.
Yeah.
I think it would have been like when you kind of saw where they were going, and it didn't get there. Like now, I haven't watched all of Alias, so I'm going to assume this, but you could tell with Alias, like 3 episodes in, that show knew what it was. Like,
it stretched itself out a little bit, like got a little wacky near the end, but
they always do that. But
I loved Alias. And
yeah,
you know how I feel about Jennifer Garner, so
that's why you hate Affleck so much.
One of many reasons, yes. That and the fact that he can't act. Speaking of that, his new movie is bombing on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know
Which
how you
one?
have a movie with Anna de Armas, who it doesn't matter what she does or says, she's the most beautiful thing on television. And it's just bombing. It's got like a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Oof.
something like that.
Are you talking about Tender Bar?
No, Deep
No.
Water.
Did you watch
I-
Tender Bar?
No,
I
I will
did.
never watch that shit.
Okay, no, hold on. I needed just give me a quick. What did you think of it, Andy?
I liked it. It was I enjoyed it. It was a good movie about coming of age. I mean,
But-
and Affleck did a good job.
See, that's how I know you're wrong.
No,
He's
I'll tell you
never
what.
done a good job as an actor.
I never. There was one. This is one of those that I never. Like I don't want to say brought up on the show. I just keep. It was one of those I keep forgetting that I watched it. That the Way Back with Ben Affleck. It was about the
Oh,
basketball
gosh.
coach. He was gonna go
Yeah.
pro, and then he winds up coming back because of busted ankles, and he's coaching the high school basketball team, but he's dealing with his own alcoholism and everything else. It
So
was
an
actually
alcoholic, washed out loser. He didn't even need a script.
there you go. It was actually really good. He gave a pretty down to earth performance. I know you're not, again, we obviously know your hatred for him. But it was shades, honestly, it was shades of Affleck from Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Like
I
with
find
the,
that too.
Kevin, you're not allowed to talk about Ben Affleck because you're clearly jaded. I will tell you, Tender Bar was
he's
in
got a
similar.
Gigli tattoo. That's the problem. You thought that was going to be the biggest movie ever.
Yeah, no. If you're gonna get a tramp stamp, pick a better one next time.
The Tender Bar was shades again of Good Will Hunting. I think anytime Affleck, I mean, okay,
Anytime
so
Affleck has an accent, I'm out.
well,
Dude, he
okay,
can't even
okay,
do a
so
Boston accent. He's from fucking Boston. The
did
Tender
you
Bar
not
has a
like
52% on Rotten Tomatoes.
you didn't like The Town?
I love The Town because he directed it. He didn't act in it. The scenes he
I-
shows up in are terrible, but everything
Yes.
else about that movie is fantastic. He's
I
a
will
fine
actually say-
director. I have actually said that. He is a fine director. I have liked most of the things that he's directed, but he cannot act.
I will give you that. In The Town, he is the least enjoyable part of that movie. Jeremy Renner and Casey Affleck, like everybody else around him is fucking amazing, and I'm loving it the whole way. But there is something about his character in that movie that he comes on screen, and I'm just kind of like, eh.
His face is punchable, but like he has a bad Boston accent, which blows me
know.
away because I'm like, dude, you're from Boston. Like,
But
why
then-
does it sound so unauthentic?
But then you hear
Like-
Matt Damon getting upset, and it starts to come out a little bit, like
Yeah.
when he yells at like reporters and stuff, and you're just like, oh, Matt still got
But-
it in there.
I will tell you, Pete, not Kevin, because Kevin won't. But it's worth Tender Bar is worth watching. I enjoyed it. It was good.
I feel like Affleck's obviously a huge part of the movie, but I feel like they're using him in some ways to kind of like oh, it's a Ben Affleck movie, but he's not in it as much as they actually like display that it is, because it focuses on the
Yeah.
kid. Like it's based on
Right.
it's based on the kid's memoir. Like it's, you know, like the kid grows up and actually is a writer, and it's based on this kid's book.
Did you ever watch St. Vincent? The Ghostbusters.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. The Bill
St.
Murray.
Vincent, when he's sitting in when the guy where he like sits on the front lawn and fucks with the kid. And
Yeah.
I watch
It-
I watched
It's
some
another
of that.
Boston. It's another Boston type. It's a. If we want to go remakes, right? It's a similar feeling to that, where it's
But
not.
Bill Murray is talented.
Well, again, yes, but it's Bill Murray is the star character in the movie, star actor in the movie, but it's not based around Bill Murray. It's based
Just
around
like back in the day, there was a movie called Outside Providence. I think it was
Yes.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Which was a great movie, but same deal. Like Alec Baldwin was kind of the name. The kids weren't really the name, but it was more about the kids. For the record,
it's
on Deep Water, it's 38% is the critics review and 26% is the audience score.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
I would watch Tender Bar. I enjoyed it. It was good.
Okay. Yeah, because I watched the preview for it and I was really interested. So the only other thing that I really did, I finally caught up on Miss Maisel.
Yeah, me too.
So
I'm not caught up, but I've been watching it.
I'm caught up. That show just keeps getting fucking better.
It's fantastic. It's such a good show.
Rachel Brosnahan is fucking like
they all are, like, it blows me.
Yes.
So
even
this
Joel,
season,
like you love you
love
love
to hate
everybody
Joel.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they've done a good job with Joel of actually, I don't want to say redeeming him, but they did a decent job. But by the middle of the second season, even though he cheated on her and blew up their world, they let you see Joel as a human, and you're like, okay, he's just fallible, and he's got his own flaws and own shit that he's working through, and the way that Miriam winds up basically forgiving him, really. For all of it, and just saying, you know what, no, it was our life, but I get it, this is the way it is. I obviously wasn't happy because I'm doing this, da, da, da.
Yeah.
I really loved that. How I'm trying to think of how far are you into this season.
I'll tell you this, and this may be the last episode I watched, but the best moment, I think, maybe of the entire show that I have seen, was Susie at the funeral when she is doing her eulogy.
Yo, kid,
dude, I watched that and I was like,
the same thing.
I was like, this is fantastic. She's
Holy
amazing,
shit.
anyways. Like, that whole subplot in the last season where she was walking around with a fucking plunger all over the place was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But the funeral
my
monologue that she
God.
had was unbelievable.
Oh my God. And I don't, like, you feel like, I know it wasn't because of the different camera angles and where that stuff was. It couldn't have been. They put it together and it felt like it was one take.
And I feel like there's probably a little bit of realism in there because the actor actually died. So the actor that played the character passed away. So that's
really?
why that's why he's not on the show anymore. And so when she's doing that, I don't know, maybe she drew from, actually working with him. But man, that scene was good.
It is that scene really, really got to me. And then, okay, so you're not caught up. So you haven't seen the Lenny Bruce at Carnegie Hall part yet.
Not at Carnegie Hall. He
Then
I'm
going to shut up. Yeah.
Okay.
He's shown up,
but I have not seen him at Carnegie Hall. He's great too. I love the dude that plays Lenny Bruce.
So I've listened to the Lenny Bruce Live at Carnegie Hall album in the past, like the recordings of it. Spoiler, he ends up at Carnegie Hall. But man, that actor shows his chops as Lenny Bruce, and he does such a good job of letting you see how, especially with comedians, and it's Midge is a little bit different. It is, but it isn't for her. But it lets you see how much of Lenny Bruce was a character in so many ways. Like you see that there was a human behind him, because I knew, but not that I'm like some sort of like researcher and studier of comedy and things like that, but it is just like the entire world of comedy and how stand-up came about and sketch and going back to the whole vaudeville days and comedy, how comedy has become what it is today. I love reading and watching stuff about that. And so I had been listening to Lenny Bruce albums fucking when I was in high school, just because I was like, oh, this cat Lenny Bruce, like, he's one of the original, he's the original offensive comic kind of thing. And so, but you go back and listen to it, and Live at Carnegie Hall isn't the same as some of his other stuff because it's gotta play a little bit more. Really good, really, really funny stuff. That's still, a lot of it actually still holds up today, some of the observational stuff, but the actor who plays Lenny Bruce and in this Carnegie Hall thing does it so much justice. Like, it's ridiculous how well he's kind of picked up his pet. He doesn't sound exactly like him, but it's okay. Like I don't need him to, but he picks up. Not everybody can be fucking Rami Malek in fucking
Queen.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Bohemian Rhapsody. You can't, because that's fucking ridiculous. Like what that
Yeah.
guy did and what he did. Like, but this guy has captured a portrait of Lenny Bruce so amazingly well. Yeah, but that funeral scene with Susie is fucking off the hook. I couldn't, and I love it because I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm like, oh, they're gonna go to the Gaslight, right? Like the funeral parlor just happens to be down the street from the Gaslight.
Right.
But when Andy, do you watch? Okay, so spoiler. Not that this is not going to make any spoiler for that. When she picks it up and they walk into the funeral next door, and she puts the picture up, and she's just like, "Look, I'm sorry, but this man," and she just goes and starts going, and it's like you're listening to her, and it's part of it for the character Susie. You feel like it's been coming for a while, just everything she's been through with Sophie, everything she's going through with Madge, the stuff with getting the money, and Shy Baldwin, that fucking prick, all that you feel for, and this has just been boiling up. And
do you think so? On topic, but from somebody who has not seen it, and I sorry to interrupt your flow there, Pete.
No, not at all.
So, like, I know Lenny Bruce. I'm a fan of comedy. I know who he is. I know I've watched his stuff too.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate everything you're saying because I understand. I know who he is. So, but in the opposite way, like my girlfriend, she is watching the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and she loves it.
Yeah.
She's a huge fan of it. The reason why I'm not watching it, because we started watching it and she liked it so much. When we're not together, she kept watching it, so I didn't keep up. So I'm just like, okay, that's yours. I'm not gonna worry about that anymore, because I liked it fine, but it wasn't anything that like lit me up. Or
then we're gonna have Allie on for after the Miss Maisel season finale, so she can geek out on that one, because
she totally would. She'd totally be on, and she'd be great on it. But I'm curious, like, do you think that you're enjoying it more because you know of Lenny? Like, I'm wondering, I'm curious if
I can say from the outside, not knowing Lenny, that he's not a big enough part of the show, especially in later seasons where he's pivotal anyways. But I know enough about Lenny Bruce to know that it's an excellent portrayal of Lenny Bruce.
He's a linchpin in today's comedy. He's a paradigm shift in our comedy.
Yeah.
Without him, there would have to be somebody else in his place to get us to where we are today.
Oh, completely. No, he's an integral part of the show. I'll put it like this: it's more of an Easter egg for comedy fans.
Okay,
and not just that. Like, his comedy isn't necessarily a huge part of the show. He does do some stand-up during the show, but most of the time that Lenny Bruce shows up, he is there as almost like a spiritual mentor for Midge, right? Like, he is more of Lenny the guy, not Lenny the comic, in a lot of the show.
Yeah, we only get Lenny the comic. We actually, what I'm talking about, this Carnegie Hall scene, is actually the most we get Lenny the comic in the entire series so far. Like, you got a couple of minutes here or there. You get a chunk of jokes that you actually get to see kind of the brilliance behind Lenny Bruce when he wasn't being the provocateur trying to get himself arrested. That because everybody remembers that. Everybody remembers him being offensive. Everybody remembers, he was this comic that got arrested. But there's so much more to him than that. That you have to, like I said, Live at Carnegie Hall is the one album of people, like, if somebody was like, okay, I know there's a bunch of Lenny Bruce recordings, what should I watch? What should I listen to? I'd be like, start with Live at Carnegie Hall. It's like Carlin. You start with that first recording that he has the very first time he did stuff. I think it's live from I forget where it was, but it's the same kind of thing where you get to understand that he wasn't just some guy up there saying, going against these blue laws. He wasn't just walking up on stage and saying fuck and cunt and the N word and all sorts of slurs and I'm explaining this to people who've never heard of Lenny Bruce. Like, oh my god, it was a different time. Like, you also have to put it in the context of the time. That's also very important for that, to understand why that was such a big deal. But he there's so much fucking intelligence. He's another one, like we were talking about last week. He's another one that transcends that level of comic into like almost, like they coined it in fucking History of the World Part One, where he's really in so many ways a stand-up philosopher, where
Yes.
he really is shining truth on ugly things and giving you a different perspective on the world that maybe you don't see it from, and taking you to an uncomfortable place. And that, as human beings in a modern age, that's kind of important. And he was really, especially a white comic, to be doing that in white clubs, like it was really a huge deal. And he got arrested. And we do get, this is the first Midge is exposed to his heroin use. It's never shown on screen. Like, he never shoots up. Like, they don't make it a deal like that, because that's not the tone of the show. But Midge kind of sees something and he's like, that's not for you, that's nothing you have to worry about. But man, the exchanges between him and Midge, and just, again, wait, yeah, oh no, you haven't seen that yet, so I'm not gonna break that for you, Kevin. God, I can't wait for you to watch that episode, because there's stuff that finally happens and you're like, oh, finally, we were waiting for this to happen. But it's done so well that you're like, okay, I dug that. Yeah, I can't. We will have to have Allison on to talk about Miss Maisel once the season finale for this season comes on, because this is, again, it's just one of those shows that keeps getting better. Like, I feel like it every time a season ends, I'm like, well, next season it's got to go downhill. As they're nearing the final season, and it hasn't. It's stayed fucking awesome.
Yeah,
She
it really has been good.
She watches it religiously. I watched maybe half the first season, and that was it.
You should, honestly, dude, it's worth it to catch up on it.
Yeah, I would
Maybe.
say too.
Especially as a fan of comedy, and like, if you will, that, like, the history of comedy. There's so much inside baseball in there, in terms of like the origins of certain things, and like this beginning, the real beginnings of what stand-up is today, and how that kind of grew from some of that. It's a real nice little picture of that. It's a completely different tone than I'm Dying Up Here, or what was the other one that was just recently that was also about stand-ups? Was it about stand-ups, or am I just thinking of I'm Dying Up Here? God, I'm Dying Up Here was so good too.
I'm dying up here too.
Fuck you. Did you watch I'm Dying Up Here? Have you ever seen that?
I don't even know what it is.
Okay, you need to watch that, because it is a fictionalized, if you will, loosely based around the Comedy Store in the late 70s, like the 60s and 70s. It's done so well, and all the comics in the show are actually comics. Like, Andrew Santino's in it, Ari Goldsmith is in it. And they're really good comics. There are a couple there are a couple guys who aren't comics that do stand up in it, and they actually don't really show them on stage too much. But like Michael Arangarano is in it, who's young. Clark, I want to say Clark Gregg, but it's not Clark Gregg. He was on, or he played Clark on The Office, and he was in that movie. Anyway, funny guy, but you dig that if you're kind of like,
what's it called?
I'm dying up here. I want to say it was on Showtime. It's really good because it's another one. It explores that whole side and the idea of how kind of broken inside comedians are.
They're all broken. Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
digging. I just wrote it down. I'll definitely check it out. I dig it. I'm a big fan of the stand-up comedy world. I think is so it is tomorrow's history, right? Like they're talking about things that we are figuring out today that we'll understand tomorrow, and their job is to shed light, whether it be positive or negative, but give us an opportunity to think about it in a way that we're not thinking about it currently. And
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
and that is what I've been watching.
Is it my turn?
It is now your
It is.
turn.
You didn't even think you were going to get a turn, did you?
Well, I feel like I should relinquish my time to Kevin just to give him another chance to talk about more of what he's been talking about watching. Just are you sure? Are you good, Kevin?
I haven't watched. I haven't watched much. I wait. I really stretched my window as far as I could.
All right.
So
Well, I finished The Tourist. Big fan. I think it ends well. I think it sets up a potential second season, which I don't know if I like or I don't like. I feel like if I can compare it to the DMZ, which is another show I've been watching on HBO Max, which was clearly one season. I guess technically they could maybe make it a second season, but there, if you watch the whole season, there is no reason for a second season. There could be. You could make one for sure, and it'd be good, but it's bookend for sure. There's a start, there's a finish. It's good. Totally enjoyed it. Dystopian society and tomorrow's world, and they left a lot of ambiguity. They didn't go into X, Y, and Z, which you didn't need to do. They focused on what they needed to focus on, and they left everything else kind of let you figure out for yourself, which I like. Really enjoyed that. Tourists left a little more like, oh, maybe we'll do a second season. If you like this one, maybe we'll pick up a second season, which I wasn't not in favor of, but still, I prefer. I am in, and I've mentioned this in previous podcasts. I am totally more in favor now in these miniseries. Just make me a 12-hour movie in 6 hour, in
do
2 hour
a one
increments.
and done. One perfect season is better than one
Totally.
one good season, one bad season.
Totally agree. I don't care if it's a 24 episode season, that is fine. Tell your story and just have a start and a finish and be done with it. And I think we're in a space right now where that is not only plausible, but frankly, people are hungry for it, right? So give me 24 1-hour episodes and tell me this whole story, and I don't need a second season. Just do that. So I enjoyed DMZ. Definitely worth a watch. Benjamin Bratt is 59 years old, and he
I haven't seen him in a while.
He is in the best shape I've ever seen anybody in my
Dude,
life.
that's what I thought about Jamie Dornan in The Tourist. I don't remember that dude being so jacked.
Yeah, well, Benjamin Bratt is more jacked.
Is he really?
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. He made my heart skip a beat. Like, good Jesus Christ. He looks good. Almost too good, to be fair. Like, what's her name? The Ashoka. What's her name?
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, like she looks good too, but I mean Benjamin's wearing better in my opinion. That was good. I watched the new season upload. Tons of fun. Felt too short, frankly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they got. I mean, they got to the end point, I suppose, for the season, which makes sense. But I've waited for fucking 2 years for
Yeah,
this.
there was a long time in between. Me and Pete were talking about that before you got on, and I really
COVID.
enjoyed the first season. I really
Me
enjoyed the
too.
first season.
Great.
I was shocked. I didn't think I would. I wasn't sure that I was sold on Robbie and Mel, and he's fantastic. I love him in that show.
Yeah.
And
He's good. He's good in the second season. I actually gave up on the whole. I figured they just weren't going to have a second season. I just figured they weren't going to. They didn't get enough attention. The second season, I totally enjoyed. Good time for sure, but it just felt fucking short. Like Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm here now. I wait 2 more fucking. It's not that good of a series where you're gonna hold me for 2 more fucking years. But I don't know.
Not Stranger Things.
No, it's Stranger Things 3 years. I can't wait for that. That starts soon. I can't wait for that. I'm watching Picard. Big fan of Picard so far. It does not feel contrived. It does not feel like there's the same, fire effects in the background. It does feel good. I do like it so far a lot. Man, Jean-Luc, that son bitch. I don't know. I feel like every time I see him on screen, I feel like just saying a little prayer, like, please God, let him live another day. He is not looking young anymore. That some bitch is old. He is old. Like it literally, I have to imagine the showrunners are like, we have to make sure that we have a path if he doesn't make it to the next season, because he's old. He's real old. But I'm really enjoying that a lot. I've been watching that.
81 years old.
Yeah, that's old.
I was old.
My dad's 7. And Shatner's not on a show.
He was though. 2 years ago, he did not a show like that, but he did
Boston Common.
No, Boston Legal, but no, that's not what I'm talking about. That was a long time ago. It was him and Henry Winkler and George Foreman and
Terry Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw.
It was funny. It was on TBS. They had them.
No. It was on national television. It was like ABC.
That's right. It got replayed on TBS. They sold it off to them. It was funny.
They did 2
went around
seasons
having
of it.
them do like goofy stunts with who was it? It was a comedian. Because I first heard about it because
it was a travel show. So the whole point of it was them going to these different places that they'd never been, and and their relationships with each other were fucking hilarious. Like Terry Bradshaw's hilarious. Henry Winkler is hilarious. Shatner's hilarious. It was a cool show. I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but it was definitely worth watching. I wish they would do one more season, but it was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
But yeah, I've been watching that, and of course Lost, and filter in, the new version of Magnum PI, and
why?
My kids like it. We like watching it. It's just it's silly.
Okay.
Silly shows.
As someone, because of the family who watches the entire Chicago series, I know I don't have a ton of room to talk here. And Opie's mom loved Magnum and Hawaii Five-0, but I'm sorry. I tried to watch Magnum, and I love Jay Hernandez. I watched that first episode, and I was like, oh, this is bullshit. And I just could not go back. Like
I couldn't do that, and I couldn't do MacGyver. When they brought MacGyver back, I was like, no, dog.
You know why? It wasn't just it wasn't just an update. The MacGyver one especially, it wasn't just an update. It was a whole new character, and it lost all the fun that Richard Dean Anderson had
Yeah, he was
with
great.
like this guy. Well, that was the thing. That was the other thing. This MacGyver had extra gadgets all the time, which I get. We're in more of like a highly advanced world compared to what it was when MacGyver was first out. But that's the whole charm of MacGyver, is that it's a dude with a fucking Swiss Army knife,
So
that like A teams out,
there's
the
two
escape
shows.
plan.
There's two shows. MacGyver, everything MacGyver did worked. So if
Yeah.
you watched MacGyver, you could do those things. Another show that was like that was Burn Notice on USA. If you ever
Okay.
watch Burn Notice, everything he does in Burn Notice is an actual thing.
Yes. Now,
Like-
if you like, this is, and I know this is going back on that one. I'm forgetting the name of the actor, but the dude that starred in Burn Notice
hmm
is the new detective on Law and Order.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good.
He was in a show that I think maybe only made it one season. It might have got a second one, but it was fantastic and it should have lasted longer. It was called Touching Evil. I think it was actually an American remake of a British show.
Sounds
But
like
it
a
was
porn I used to watch.
no, that was Touching Eva, and she's very different. But it was really good. I don't even know if you could find it somewhere, but it was really cool. It was really good. I remember really enjoying that show.
Hold on, because I just looked up. Fucking, where is it?
I don't believe you just looked it up at all. I think you're looking it up right
No,
now.
I'm not. I'm looking up. I'm trying to find the name of that fucking.
Well, while you're looking, I did watch Batman since we last
Oh.
talked. And
Okay, yeah. What's your take? Because I still haven't seen it. I'm still really on the fence.
so I might have fallen asleep in it,
Again,
Really?
like for most of it.
Really?
this is Andrew's second favorite Batman movie. I think he said
To be
possibly
fair,
third.
to be fair, I definitely had cocktails. I definitely brought my little weed pen with me, and I definitely watched it at night. And I'm definitely 45 years old. So all those things combined, perhaps I took a
With
little
a 3-hour movie, yeah.
Jesus
3
Christ!
hour.
You know what? That's how I'm gonna find it. I'm
3 hour
sorry. I'm
plus
trying
movie.
I'm trying to find the name of that Terry Bradshaw movie, or the show with Henry Winkler and Terry Bradshaw and this and that. And so
Just
I
look
go
up
to
George Foreman, dude. He's in so few things.
That's what I changed to, because I'm over here looking up Henry Winkler,
That
trying to
guy's in
find it,
everything.
and I'm just like,
Yeah.
gee, like that dude has not stopped working
Mm-mm.
days. Like he's like seemed to have disappeared, but he's been a guest star on every fucking show that's ever been made. He has done tons of voiceover work. He like every 5-10 years he's in this little sleeper hit movie, like
Mhm.
Waterboy.
Yeah.
Perfect. And it's always a really small part, but he's really good. Anyway, continue while I look up George Foreman, because that makes way more sense.
Continue. I from what I saw, I did enjoy it, but I do need to see it again to give it a proper review. It did seem to be in line with Christian Bale's Batman in the same caliber of movie from what I saw. There seems to be so many things that are potentially spin off from this, which could dilute the caliber of the movie, in my opinion. So I'll be curious to
Well, I
see
know
what
the
happens.
Penguin gets getting his own HBO show. So
Yes,
they're
for
doing a whole
sure.
HBO Max show from the Penguin.
And I could see that. And I was awake for that character enough to know that that's probably a good idea. But yeah, I'll see. So I saw Batman, The Card, Upload, DMZ, Lost, and then
Better Late Than Never.
Movies.
Better late than never. That's right.
That's the name of the show. It's Better Late Than Never. Yeah. And the comedian that goes along with them
Oh yeah,
is Jeff Dye, who's really,
Yeah.
really funny. He's like their
fun in
sidekick.
that too. Like he really fits in with them really well.
Yeah. Like Hasselhoff was in an episode. Al Roker was in an episode.
There's actually a really great episode where they go to Germany and visit some places where Henry Winkler's ancestors lived, because they lived through World War II. They lived through, because he's Jewish, right? So they lived through some crazy shit. And he visits like their house, and I think it's a grandfather that he never met or something. And they find a spot where they literally put a plaque on the road for his grandfather. So he goes and like touches the plaque and has a moment. But it was a really good show. Like, yeah, it was silly because they're all fun guys, but it had some really, really cool moments too. Like they really learned about the world in a way that, you would think these guys that had all this money and have had all this money for a long time and been super famous would have already seen. And Shatner's waiting till he's 90 years old to go do this shit, right? The other guys aren't a whole lot younger.
No. The other show I've been watching, speaking of comedy, is The Girl in the Window Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. Whatever the fuck that movie's called. The show's called.
The Girl in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. No, The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window.
Yeah.
The Girl in the House Across the Street from the Woman in the Window. One of those.
So Allie and I watched that, and we kept watching it because we didn't want to not know what the fuck happened. Not necessarily because we were enjoying what we were watching, but just because it was like, how is this gonna fucking end? It
ends with the greatest fight scene in television history. Dude, I loved it. It was so ridiculous that I loved it. Like from the second it started, I was like,
sorry to interrupt you guys again, but Kevin, Touching Evil is available on Amazon. It's not on Prime to stream, but you can buy it.
I'm not buying it.
No,
but
I don't buy
Kevin,
things.
There's good fucking cast in there, bro. You're right.
Yeah, it's a good show. It was a good show. It should have lasted longer.
Bradley Cooper was on this show. That would have
been a very
for
young
6
Bradley
episodes.
Cooper.
Oh yeah, but you had Vera Farmiga.
Yes, she was the main character. I love her.
Zach Grenier, Kevin Durand. Which, if you saw pictures of these people, you go, "Oh, that fucking dude."
Yeah.
But yeah, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. Back to where you were.
That's all right. Kevin, you're 100% correct. When I saw the little 8-year-old like trying to take out what's her name?
Yeah, Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell. I'm like, I literally looked over. I pushed pause, which I am known in my family to push pause, and they all, whenever I push pause, they look at me and sigh like, "Motherfucker, what are you doing?" And I pushed pause, and I looked over at Allie, and I said, "If this fight lasts more than 30 seconds, I'm calling bullshit." And then I pushed play, and it lasted 5 minutes. I'm like, "Listen, I got 2 kids. They're both upstairs in their rooms asleep right now. One's 18-year-old girl, one's a 15-year-old boy. That 15-year-old boy give me a problem for sure, but I promise you, I'm gonna win. 18-year-old girl, sorry, she's toast. If either one of them at 10 years old came at me with a fucking butcher knife, I would fucking laugh at their face. Like, come on, try again. The fact that Kristen Bell couldn't take out some little bitch with a knife.
So
I'm sorry,
you've already made a mistake because you've taken this show too seriously.
You've put, I'm sorry, real quick, Andy, you just put like the worst image in my head because my daughter's turning 10 in like a month. So all of a sudden I've got this image of my little 10-year-old daughter running at me, and all I can think of is like, oh, I'd just kick her in the fucking chest.
Yeah. What are you doing?
like I'm thinking about her height and like at like 10 years old, I'd just be like, she'd come at me and I'd be just all poof. Like,
yeah. And she's your daughter.
She's never taken a punch.
Yeah.
Like,
and she's your daughter and you would kick her. If some 10-year-old that you don't even know came at you with a knife, like, good night. like toast, right? Like, it's not even a question.
Okay, I gotta watch this shit now. Okay, now I know exactly where Kevin's gonna go with this, and I have a feeling I'm gonna chime in. But go, Kevin.
But so
Kevin.
you have to understand how ridiculous the show is intentionally, because it really starts to point out early on that it is. So when she goes to her daughter's headstone, did you happen to notice that all 3 times she went, there was a different epitaph on the headstone?
I did
It was
not at all.
different every single time. So it's like that's the
did not
first
notice at all.
real hint that you shouldn't be paying attention to what's going on, or you shouldn't believe what's going on, because then you start to get into all of the cliches about that genre. So she talks about, eventually you find out that her husband is also her therapist, right?
Yes.
You find out that she drinks like a full glass of wine every day. You find out
No, each glass of wine is a bottle of wine.
Yeah. You find out that the dude that has been fixing her mailbox, that has never finished fixing her mailbox
for 15 years,
right, was a mental patient who murdered his entire family and was hired by her husband because he felt bad. Like if you think about these things and put these things together, you understand it is a complete mock-up of the genre. So everything they're doing is way over the top. That fight scene at the end, though, if you watch The Woman in the Window, the one with Amy Adams, there's a stupid fight scene that takes itself so seriously at the end, and it is the worst thing on film. And so this one where it's making fun of that is fucking perfect.
So is this Evil Dead 2? Is this what this is? Is this series Evil Dead 2?
No, you're thinking about it the wrong way. I'm understanding where Kevin's going with this. And so this is what I thought when I first read the title, before I even watched the trailer. So now I'm gonna watch this because I'm gonna be the third voice, and I have a feeling I know where I'm going to land on this. I'm really familiar with this genre. We haven't watched all of them, but like Gone Girl, Girl on a Train.
Yep.
You know, like Christy's read those books, and so we watched the movies when they came out. They're very interesting. Then I watched the trailer for it after reading the thing. I'm like, oh, I assumed this was going to be a send up of this genre, but you watch the trailer, and the trailer takes itself way seriously.
So if you watch it not knowing that it's a send up, it feels like a badly written one of these movies as it goes on. But it's not. It's perfectly written for what it is.
And I have a feeling I'm going to fall down on the side of this movie being utterly hilarious, because I'm familiar enough with the tropes in the genre, and like what he just described with the mental patient and this and the that and all this coming together and pulling together. I'm like, this is one of these like chick lit books, like, you know, Oprah book club books come to life movie. It's more in line with, like, if you will, like a scary movie, or and I'm gonna gonna get you sick. Like it's trying to polish off the genre, but it's not the Wayans brothers.
But it's not as over the top as
it's not Airplane. It's not. Yeah, it's like it's more along the lines, if you will, of like, say, Scream. But it's still.
I think I compared it to Scream. I think Scream is the perfect comparison because it is also,
self-aware.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm pulling up Evil Dead 2 as the comparison, because Evil Dead 1 was supposed to be a horror movie and it was not. And then Evil Dead 2 is line for line the exact same, but delivered in a comedic fashion. I just feel like we were watching this, and each time Allie would look over at me like, is this serious? Or is this supposed to be funny? I'm like, I really don't know. Like, I'm not sure because it left. It was enough serious where you kind of thought maybe it was going to turn into a serious
Oh
movie,
my
but
god.
then in the end, it was pure comedy.
I
Pure
want to
comedy.
watch I want to watch this so bad now.
Yeah, you need to watch it. It's
Okay.
hilarious.
That's a pretty good idea. So what did we all learn this week?
I learned that I need to be watching more television, man, and I need to finish a
learned
show
that
during the episode, like during the week, and not be halfway
I
through
learned
a
that
show.
Kevin is he's trap jaw. I mean, he knows all of the answers, and he will not give any idea what's going on.
I learned that Andy likes to cup the balls. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. Yeah, just I hope you enjoyed listening to this week's episode of All Pop No Culture. Join us again next week where we discuss, among other things, Lost and Andy's
Prolific hand job skills.
Have a week.
And now, Deep Thoughts by Andy.
I've been around so many stand-ups in, when I worked at the comedy club. So I was there, 5 days a week, watching, comedians and some good names, not just bullshit comedian. And that's, to be fair, like I got on stage a couple of times because the opening act would be fucking plowed by the second show. And I remember, so I worked there during the day. I'd be a telemarketer giving away tickets, and then I'd wait tables or bartend or whatever at night. And I remember by Saturday, we'd know if the opener was going to be able to make it to the second show. Sometimes we just, you knew on Friday night, like, that motherfucker's not making the second show. There's just no way. He's going to be plowed, hammered, drunk, or off getting laid somewhere else, and he's not going to be the second show. So the owner would often be like, God, shit, we need somebody to introduce the headliner. And I was there for probably about 8, 9, 10 months. And, I remember one time he said to the waitstaff, hey, we got nobody to introduce the headliners. Will one of you do it? And I said, I'll do it. So, I went up there and I did like 2.5 minutes tops of like, bullshit pretend comedy. And, I introduced the headliner and we had a good time. And I still remember, like, the owner was like, that's not bad. If you put together 5 minutes, you want to show it to me, I'll consider you putting up there, and I'll even pay you for it. I'm like, oh, really? And I put together 5 minutes. I never got a check, but it was fun. But just being in that space for that long and seeing all of these comedians, seeing Bobby Slayton and Henry Cho and like
Yeah.
and smoking a joint with them afterwards in the parking lot, below Tommy T's. Like, I am so acutely aware of that scene, and it is amazing. Like, I wish that I had the chops to do that, because that is something. I will say that one thing that I did see in Marvel's Mrs. Maisel, which again is 50 years before my time, it's accurate if you were to transcend it to today. What comedy was then and how it progressed to now is so accurate and true and honest and interesting. It's just fun.